What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Uproar, and with the recent few shocking chapters in Wano dealing with Green Bull, I realized that it's about time to update my Marine Admirals video since we have a lot more information now, especially about Green Bull. If you enjoy seeing One Piece videos like this one and want to keep them coming, channel the Pirate King within and smash that like button. Always be a smashing Pirate King rather than a passing Orochi, and you will be greeted with YouTube fireworks. If you haven't, join the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. Now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. The rank of Admiral is the second highest rank in the Marines. There are only 3 Admirals at a time. Above them is the Fleet Admiral, the highest Marine rank. Although the Fleet Admiral commands the entire organization, he is still ranked below the World Government Commander-in-Chief, the 5 Elders, and now, as we found out relatively recently, the mysterious Imu-sama. The Admirals are known as the world government's greatest military powers, since each of them is extremely strong. Admirals, similar to the Fleet Admiral, can issue buster calls on islands that are deemed to be threats. Let's start off with the 55-year-old Akainu Aka Sakazuki, who is over 10 feet tall, by the way. Before he was a Fleet Admiral, he used to be an Admiral, and at that time he went by the alias Akainu, which means Red Dog. However, now that he's Fleet Admiral, he goes by Sakazuki. When former Fleet Admiral Sengoku stepped down, he wanted Aokiji to take the job, but dignitaries within the government pushed for Sakazuki. The two, meaning Aokiji and Sakazuki, fought a one-on-one duel. The winner would seize the right to command the Marines. They were evenly matched for 10 whole days before Sakazuki emerged victorious. Aokiji then left the Marines, apparently not wanting to work for Akainu. Akainu was the most ruthless of all the admirals, which is probably why Sengoku favored Aokiji. Akainu is thorough in trying to stamp out whatever or whoever he deems to be evil or a threat to absolute justice. As a result, he killed Ace and badly scarred Luffy. Akainu would even rather sacrifice innocent lives than let one guilty person get away, which was shown when he destroyed a refugee ship because one rule-breaking scholar might have made it on board. In contrast, Aokiji said he would never go as far as that and called Akainu a jerk. Akainu was even willing to kill Kobe, a Marine, just because he wanted the battle at Marineford to end. He's an ends justify the means kind of guy, and he will do anything to bring about a world of absolute justice. Akainu is even willing to talk back to the elders when they get in the way of his vision, which is pretty impressive. During chapter 595, even the powerful Blackbeard decides to run away from Akainu, stating that he's not ready for that battle yet, even though he has Whitebeard's devil fruit at this point and some of the world's worst criminals on his crew. Akainu possesses the Magu Magu no Mi, aka Magmag fruit. This Logia devil fruit lets him create, manipulate, and become magma. Akainu's devil fruit appeared to be of a higher order than Ace's. It's been said that because of magma's unique properties and its higher temperature, Akainu's attack injures Ace despite his Logia defenses. At the same time, in my previous video, it was commented that fire can actually reach a higher temperature than magma, even if magma is hotter than your average fire. This raises the exciting potential of Sabo being able to bring out more of the Flame Fruit's potential and get revenge for Ace. Although honestly for me, it's hard to see such a big opponent being beaten by Sabo, especially after he scarred Luffy. I've also heard theories that magma absorbs fire and that's why Akainu could penetrate Ace, and some people just say he used Haki. But let me know your favorite interpretation in the comments. Anyways, Akainu's Logia powers are so strong that he was able to permanently change the climate of Punk Hazard. Akainu can use armament Haki and observation Haki, and in fact all Marines ranked Vice Admiral and up can use Haki. It has not been confirmed that Akainu has Conqueror's Haki, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't, given his power and important leader status. In fact, Oda said that Akainu is so strong that he could end the One Piece series within a year if he were the protagonist, and he said that back in 2012. Given the recent importance placed on Haki, and especially on Conqueror's Haki and how it's way more important than fruit powers, it seems pretty obvious to me that Akainu has it, even if it hasn't been confirmed yet. All in all, this dude is definitely a worthy antagonist for Luffy given his power and history with our protagonist. And since Gear 5 Luffy was recently able to use Advanced Conqueror's Haki to punch Magma Dragon Kaido without making physical contact and thus without melting his arm, he might be ready to take on Akainu too. Let me know your thoughts on that matchup below and if Luffy is ready to take him on. Next, let's look at the currently 49-year-old Kuzan aka Aokiji. Before Kuzan gave up being an admiral, he went went by Aokiji, which means blue pheasant. After he lost his fight against Akainu, Kuzan left the Marines, and according to the elders, he's been helping Blackbeard. This is a very curious turn. On the one hand, it makes Blackbeard, who was already extremely OP, seem even stronger. On the other hand, Kuzan could be a spy. It is weird that Akainu let him survive their battle, so it could be that they set it up so that Kuzan would help the Marines by keeping a close eye on Blackbeard. We'll see what ends up happening, but it definitely seems strange that the Sengoku recommended Kuzan would join forces with Blackbeard, especially since Kuzan seemed like the nicest guy out of the former 3 admirals. Kuzan is 9 foot 9 inches tall, so he's a bit shorter than Akainu, but definitely nothing to complain about, and he's way more laid back than Akainu, practicing his own form of lazy justice rather than absolute justice. However, more accurately, he has his own moral compass and follows moral justice. Unlike Akainu, he's compassionate. He's willing to help a child Robin escape a buster call, and he is willing to not arrest the young Luffy after he helps people by defeating Crocodile. Unlike Akainu, Kuzan wouldn't want to sacrifice a number of innocent lives just to get rid of one guilty person. Kuzan is no doubt very powerful, otherwise Sengoku would not have recommended him for Fleet Admiral, and he would not have lasted 10 days fighting against the extremely powerful Akainu. When a fight drags on for that long, you start to think that it might have gone either way if conditions were only slightly different. Akainu is even 6 years older, so it's at least possible that Kuzan could become stronger down the line. It's also noteworthy that most Marine troops preferred Kuzan and supported him, showing that Kuzan is a good leader who has the ability to positively influence others. This ability to lead also hints at the fact that he could be a Conqueror's Haki user as well. He's powerful enough to easily scare off someone as powerful as Doflamingo. He was able to battle with Whitebeard until Diamond Jozu, one of Whitebeard's commanders, entered the fray, allowing Whitebeard to move on. Kuzan took advantage of a distraction and eventually took Jozu down without much trouble, so as we've seen, he can clearly fight with the best of them. Now let's look at his Devil Fruit powers. He ate the Hihi no Mi, aka the Ice fruit. This Logia fruit lets him create, manipulate, and become ice. He can easily freeze miles of ocean and even giant tsunamis. He can freeze his enemies and then easily shatter their bodies. Kuzan's Logia powers, like Akainu's, are strong enough to permanently change the climate of an area, as we saw with Punk Hazard. What's especially cool about Kuzan, yes pun intended, is that he can avoid the most common threat of Devil Fruit users by freezing the seawater below him. Thus, if he's ever in a position where he's about to fall in and drown, he can just freeze the water below him. He regularly uses his freezing powers to travel across the sea, and the fact that he just bikes over the sea makes him all the more awesome, not to mention hilarious. What is perhaps the most impressive thing about Kuzan's power is how he is able to survive Haki imbued attacks like they were nothing. For instance, when Whitebeard stabbed through him with his Haki imbued weapon, Kuzan was able to come out of it fine. That's a whole other level of Logia mastery right there. It appears like Kuzan was able to make a hole in his body before the weapon penetrated him and thus avoided the damage. Kuzan also possesses Observation Haki and Armament Haki, and if my rational speculation about Akainu is correct, it's almost certain that Kuzan, who fought him for 10 days, is also an unconfirmed Conqueror's Haki user. If Luffy agrees to let Yamato join the Straw Hats, then there are already 3 Conqueror's Haki users on the Straw Hat crew alone, namely Yamato, Zoro, and Luffy. So it wouldn't even be surprising if all Admirals had Conqueror's Haki, since the Marines are a much bigger organization, and the Straw Hats, despite being much smaller, already have 3 users. Haki aside, Kuzan can form sharp weapons out of his ice and use them to attack his opponents. All in all, Kuzan is more than a force to be reckoned with, and if Blackbeard truly acquired the former Admiral's loyalty, that's an insane addition to the Blackbeard Pirates. Next, let's look at the currently 58-year-old Borsolino Aka Kizuru. His Admiral alias means Yellow Monkey. The constantly grinning Kizuru is the only remaining Admiral from the pre-time skip trio, since Akainu was promoted to Fleet Admiral and Kuzan resigned. Kizuru is also tall at 9 foot 11 inches. These 3 admirals towered over most people in height and strength. Borsolino is the oldest, and that's also reflected by the wrinkles on his face. His form of justice is explained by Oda to be unclear justice. He's not as moral as Kuzan, but he's also not as much of an extremist as Akainu, and wouldn't take as much initiative as he does. Kizuru prefers to follow orders rather than lead. In regards to combat, he's among the best. He's extremely fast, his Logia lets him attack and move at the speed of light. He clashed against legends like Silver's Rayleigh and Whitebeard and came out fine. He also eventually attacked Luffy after Shanks' first mate Ben Beckman threatened him, and even offered to go to Wano when he found out that Big Mom and Kaido formed an alliance. Think about how crazy that is for a second. Kaido and Big Mom were the two living Yonko with the highest bounties. Together, they had a bounty around 9 billion berries. To put this in perspective, the Pirate King Gold D. Roger had a bounty of around 5.5 billion berries. And Kizuru offers to go to Wano. Even Akainu is like, chill bro. So it's quite clear that Kizuru is not only extremely strong, but practically fearless. Now let's look at his devil fruit power, the Pika Pika no Mi, aka Glint Glint fruit. It allows Kizuru to create control and become light. He can shoot laser beams, create lightsabers to fight with, and turn parts of his body into light and then hit his opponents with the force of light speed. Not only can he travel at the speed of light, he can also use mirrors or reflective surfaces to propel him so that he can get to any point he wishes to almost instantaneously, as if he were teleporting. Kizuru is also skilled at using observation haki and armament haki. If I had to pick someone who's least likely to have Conqueror's haki out of the first 3 admirals, it's Kizuru, but still, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if all admirals had Conqueror's haki. Before we jump to the new admirals, let's look at the now 79-year-old Sengoku the Buddha. Before he was Fleet Admiral, he too was an admiral. He's one of the OGs along with Garp, Whitebeard, Gold D. Roger, Captain Rocks, and so on. Sengoku was one of the Marines that Gold D. Roger respected, the other being Garp. At the Battle of Marineford, he is able to restrain Garp and send all of the skilled Blackbeard pirates flying backwards with one of his attacks. He's no longer in his prime, but he's clearly still one of the strongest characters in the series. He possesses the Hito Hito no Mi model Daibutsu, aka the Human Fruit model Buddha. This is a mythical zone fruit, a class rarer than Logia type fruits. This fruit allows its user to transform into a large golden Buddha. His strength is magnified in this form, giving his blows immense destructive power. He can also release powerful shock waves in this form, and it can be assumed that he has one of the best defenses when he's transformed. Sengoku, unlike the other skilled admirals on this list, is confirmed to be able to use all 3 types of haki, including the rare Conqueror's haki. Next we have one of the new admirals, the 54-year-old Isho, known also by his alias Fujitora, which means Wisteria Tiger. He's shorter than all the previously mentioned admirals at 8 feet 10 inches tall, but I'm sure for most of us it's still pretty tall. Like Kuzan, Fujitora is against the extremist view of absolute justice. As opposed to Akainu, who is willing to sacrifice the innocent, Fujitora prioritizes protecting people. He is blind and says that he earned his lack of sight by his own actions, and that he shut his eyelids on his own after he saw too many things he didn't care for. However, after an encounter with Luffy, Fujitora supposes that he shouldn't have closed his eyes because he wants to take a look at Luffy's face to see how such an honest guy looks. In front of the world, Fujitora apologizes to the proper king of Dressrosa, Riku, after Doflamingo is defeated and says that it was through the actions of pirates, gladiators, and citizens that the country seized victory. This is practically Akainu's worst nightmare, and Fujitora even chooses not to apologize to Akainu after doing it. Fujitora, an admiral, admits in the open that the Marines can do the wrong thing and make mistakes, while pirates can do the right thing and protect the innocent. You can't help but like the guy who's willing to follow his own moral compass no matter what his superior, the fleet admiral, will think. Fujitora is strong enough to easily block attacks from former warlord Doflamingo, and Luffy during Dressrosa couldn't do much to him either except leave a positive impression. He could also clash with Sabo, the number 2 ranked member of the Revolutionaries and an extremely skilled fighter, for an extended period of time without taking any significant damage. Now let's get into Fujitora's devil fruit, the Paramecia type Zushi Zushi no Mi. This fruit gives him gravity powers that he uses in conjunction with his sword. He can create gravitational forces that move horizontally or vertically. He can use downward gravity to trap an opponent in place, or he can use gravitational force to repel people and things away from himself. He can even pull down meteorites from space Madara style. Even someone as skilled and experienced as Doflamingo couldn't believe that this dude was bringing an actual meteorite down to Earth. Fujitora is also skilled at observation and armament haki. Furthermore, he's been seeing imbuing his sword with haki. His observation haki is what lets him fight effectively without vision. He's so good that he can even sense people's emotions and thoughts, not just their fast physical movements. And finally, we're here. The last admiral we have to cover is Ryokugyu Aka Aramaki, the second new admiral. His alias means Green Bull. This is the Admiral that we knew by far the least about when I made the previous version of this video. Up to that point, we just knew that his silhouette was seen smiling and joking around with Fujitora, even while Akainu was mad at the latter. We knew Green Bull had long wavy hair and wore a marine coat. We also knew he hadn't had a bite to eat for 3 years, but he did reveal his love of pretty ladies. We knew that he was strong enough to clash along with fellow Admiral Fujitora with the formidable captains of the Revolutionary Army. No small feat, especially for a man running on an empty stomach. Doflamingo has said that there are rumors that both of the new Marine Admirals are powerful monsters, so it's quite possible that Green Bull is on par or maybe even stronger than Fujitora. And if I had to bet, I'd say he is stronger, and that's why he was saved for last. As with all of the other Admirals, he knows observation armament hockey. In the last version of the video, I hyped up Green Bull because, as mentioned, Oda kept him for last, shrouded in mystery, which is usually what shonen authors do for the stronger characters. And after reading the recent chapters of the manga, I must say Oda did not disappoint. There were a lot of theories floating around about Green Bull, including that he had a plant-based fruit power and that he was actually Zoro's father. One of these theories has already been confirmed, kind of. The reasons I thought he might have a plant-based power was because of the green in his name and also the fact that he didn't eat, which suggested to me that he might get his nutrients from photosynthesis. When he appeared in chapter 1052, it looked good for this theory, since he was seen flying around with a kind of flower helicopter sticking out from his back. Gotta hand it to the Admirals, they definitely have uniquely awesome ways of traveling. At this point, Sakazuki, aka Akainu, is asking him where he is through his snail phone, and Green Bull says, in the air, as if that helps narrow it down. It's moments like this that seem to support the idea of him being Zoro's dad, since Zoro is legendary for his lack of direction sense as well. Anyways, Green Bull finally spots Wano up ahead and Sakazuki tells him, don't you dare make things any worse. And Green Bull simply says, I know, geez. Then we head to the following chapter where we see his strength level, face, and fruit abilities at work. Although his powers still look related to plants, his nutrient gaining process is much more deadly than photosynthesis. We see him launching roots all over the place that penetrate the former beast pirates, and he sucks nutrients from them that way. In turn, the victims begin to look dried up and old. So I guess if Fujitora is similar to Madara with his meteor dropping powers, Green Bull is sort of similar to Hashirama with his wood style powers. The craziest part is that even King and Queen, two Yonko commanders with bounties of 1.32 billion and 1.39 billion respectively, are easily dealt with. Now yes, they were hurt during the fight and King is even shown with bandages, but still, it's been a week and Luffy and Zoro seem fine now, so it's still very impressive what Green Bull was able to do. Furthermore, despite the fact that they were the strongest commanders of the so-called strongest creature in the world and the Yonko with the highest bounty, Green Bull comments that a guy in his position can't go around getting beat by pirate subordinates. Thus, even if they were in tip-top shape, the implication is that Green Bull would still crush them. And it's a big deal because we saw how Ben Beckman spoke with Admiral Kizuru at the Paramount War and the respect he gave him. Ben commanded him not to do anything, and at first at least, Kizuru put his hands up and said, oops, you're Ben Beckman, clearly showing a lot more respect to the Yonko commander than Green Bull showed Queen and King. Yes, it's likely in part because Ben Beckman is stronger than King and Queen, but it still could be read as Green Bull being very strong even for an admiral. And this is also an interesting moment because Green Bull, with his actions and words, seems to confirm that most of the time admirals are stronger than Yonko commanders. Perhaps not a shocking revelation, but interesting nonetheless, and it makes sense since if there are usually 3 admirals at a time while there are 4 Yonko, it would be weird for the admirals to be struggling with every Yonko commander. That being said, it does appear like Marco and especially Ben Beckman stand out as being pretty special. Let me know right now in the comments, where would you rank Green Bull in power compared to the other admirals we've seen like Kizaru, Fujitora, and so on? I'd love to see how you guys rank the admirals after these latest chapters. Back to the chapter at hand though, and we even see Green Bull drinking beer through his roots, another potential clue to him being Zoro's father. After Sakazuki told him not to cause any trouble, he does the complete opposite and calls for a battleship to be sent to him and even tells the listener not to squeal to Sakazuki. So this dude is acting on his own right now. He says he loves Sakazuki's cut no corners attitude, and he says he wants to hear Sakazuki's praise when Green Bull brings him Luffy's head. So just the fact that he thinks he can take down everyone that just brought down Kaido and Big Mom also speaks volumes about his confidence and potential strength. I personally don't see him being being a real threat to Gear 5 Luffy and his allied forces, but it does depend, at least in part, on how recovered exactly our guys are. To say the least, it should be interesting to see Green Bull crash the party, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Now, even though Aramaki's fruit hasn't been named yet, it is clearly related to plants in one way or another. However, rather than just being a vague plant logia or something, it could very well be something more hype, like a Mythical Zone model Juboko, based on a Japanese tree yokai that thirsts for human blood. Since no admiral except the legendary former fleet Admiral Sengoku has had a Mythical Zone so far, and since it is the most rare and hype category of fruit, that would serve to further distinguish Green Bull among the already impressive Admiral class. If you want to learn more about Aramaki's potential fruit and the Juboko myth, definitely check out our Why Everyone is Afraid of Admiral Green Bull video, link in the description. But that's it for today's video, all 6 known admirals and what we know about them so far and their powers. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button to let me know. Remember, always be a smashing pirate king rather than a passing orochi, and you will be rewarded with YouTube fireworks. If you haven't made this the video, you join the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. And we all know this is definitely not the time to be missing One Piece. Let me know what type of One Piece video you would like to see next in the comments, and while you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my big and growing One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the Yonko, Warlords, Supernova, Mythical Zone fruits, and much more. Link to that is in the description and on screen right now. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.